See the moonlights on the town. Whoa, I'm getting ready. Tallawah TV is in the town. Whoa, I'm getting ready. Got a corner on the telephone. Yeah, this is the Ocean of the Messenger, and you're watching Tallawah TV with the host and best. So, Davis, take it away.
My Tallawahs, how are you all? Merry Christmas. Thank you for your support this year. I've gone and I've gotten the legend, a icon, a trailblazer, a legend for Watford Football Club and also Liverpool Football Club as well. He is one of our own former guys, Reggae Boyz manager, Mr. John Barnes. I do hope you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed speaking to the legend himself. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much for blessing me with a moment of your time. This has been on my
Not at all. Sorry, I missed it earlier. Just a bit Christmas time, so we're just a bit rushed off our feet.
No, it's totally understandable. Like you said, it's Christmas time. So definitely appreciate you for squeezing me into your schedule.
No problem at all.
Thank you. I've always been fascinated by you, and it's so odd because this fascination started from a very young age of me like falling in love with football. And there were people in my family who knew who John Barnes was, but didn't like football, don't appreciate the art of football, but like I said, definitely knew who John Barnes was. So how does it feel to be a pioneer, a trailblazer who rose to the top?
Well, of course, there are different groups of people who may like me because, of course, first of all, from a footballing perspective, I suppose if you're a football fan, and I was probably one of the first high-profile black players played for one of the top teams in Liverpool. Although I played for Watford for 6 years earlier, when I went to Liverpool is really, you may think my career took off as much as I played probably 30 odd times for England before I went to Liverpool. And on the other hand, you have a lot of black people who were happy to see a black person doing something good, even if they don't like football. So there are two groups. There are groups who like football, and the other group is just happy to see a black person elevating themselves into the higher echelons of any major industry, be it sport, be it music, be it business. So I got a lot of love from black people who probably didn't even like football as well, which was great.
That is definitely true. There's no two ways about that, because like I said, I had many people in my family. I think it's because we share similarities, us being born in Jamaica just like yourself, so there's definitely that representation there. So they appreciated you, may not love football, but they definitely appreciated you. What's your formula for achieving maximum potential?
Hard work, effort, and commitment. Because all you can do is, and you gave the operative word there, achieving maximum potential. And just to give an example, I always use to give an example of when we think that we have achieved the maximum that we can, or if we then feel what does success look like, because I will then use myself and Usain Bolt as an example. I would say, if I'm going to race Usain Bolt at 100 meters, and Usain Bolt's best time is 9.4, for example, 9.5, yeah? And my best time is 11 seconds. So I race Usain Bolt and I do 11.1. He does 10 seconds, so he beats me by 20 meters. But he is nearly a second off his best time, whereas I'm close to my best time, so I'm more successful. Because all you can do is maximize your own potential. The challenge that you have is to be as good as you can, not to be the best. Because if there's somebody who's better than you, you can't do anything about that. All you can do is be the best you can. So this whole idea of what winning looks like, what a winner looks like, it's about the battle within yourself to maximize your own potential, not to beat somebody else's potential. What I can hope is that Usain Bolt doesn't maximize his potential and gets nowhere near it, and I can beat him. But when we say about who should win, anything, be it boxing, tennis, football, we hope that the others underachieve and we maximize our potential, because human beings cannot overachieve. You hear it so often when somebody has won or somebody has done something and they say they have overachieved. They haven't overachieved. They've maximized their potential, and the people who should beat them have underachieved. So all you can ask for, as you rightly say, is to maximize your own potential.
Brilliant, brilliant. I heard a fascinating story about your mom some time ago, and I wanted some clarity on it because I was actually blown away. How big of an influence were your parents in the early days of you pursuing your football career? And I asked because apparently your mom once put a football in your cot.
Yes, well, of course, my parents have been the biggest influence on my life generally, not just in terms of my football, in terms of the person I am, the way I think. My father played football for Jamaica. He was a colonel in the Jamaican army. So he was not a professional footballer, but being a good sportsman, he played football for Jamaica. He came from Trinidad to join the British West Indies Regiment when he was 19. So he played cricket for Trinidad second level. He played football for Jamaica. He came to Sandhurst in the 50s. That's the British officer training, because of course Jamaica was a colony, and he was in the same class as Andrew Parker Bowles. That's Camilla Parker Bowles, his husband, who's obviously married now to Prince Charles. So he was an army officer, British army officer. And when he came to England, he understood in the 50s that people are going to look at black people from the Caribbean and feel that they're less than and they're inferior. So he became heavyweight. He never boxed before, but he took up boxing. He became the heavyweight boxing champion at Sandhurst. He played rugby for Sandhurst because he felt that as a black man, you have to show them that you are equally as good as them. In fact, you have to show them you're better to be considered equal. So he was obviously one of my big role models. My mother's family in Jamaica were very influential in starting the first Jamaican government. They started the Trade Unions Conference. So they're very political, but they also understood, as much as they were probably part of the political elite in Jamaica, they understood that even after independence, and Jamaica still is, as lots of Caribbean countries and African countries are, there's an elite element to it. So it's not as black and white as, say, racism, but when you talk about elitism, whereby you have working class Jamaicans who are being discriminated against by middle class and upper class Jamaicans, we see that all over Africa. And as much as my family were a middle class family, they understood that the people and supporting the people is much more important than wanting more power for themselves. And that's how I was brought up with my mother and my father. As much as they're two elite people, they understand that it's about the people. It's about the average black person, the average woman. It's not about the elite black people or the elite women and giving them power and then feeling that we are inclusive and we are diverse and we are making a difference, because all we're doing is creating more elite, be they black, be they women, be they gay. So this is the way I've always thought. And my mother decided when she was about 67 that she wanted to be a barrister. So she took a law degree at 67. She qualified as a lawyer at 74. And now she's 86, practicing in court every day in Kingston. And courts in Kingston are like courts in England, I can tell you. So they're my two biggest role models. Mm-hmm. And as much as, you know, they are a middle-class elite family, they understand that the most important thing is really what you do for the people, not for yourselves.
Mm-hmm. You touched on the people, and I recently lost my granddad, but I know he would be rolling in his grave if I didn't ask you this next question, because like I said, you said the people. So what role did your family play in the People's National Party?
Well, my grandfather, it was the JLP to begin with. My grandfather and his uncle Ken Hill were with Alexander Bustamante and Norman Manley, Michael Manley's father, in starting the party. But then, of course, why I say the people is that they broke away from the party because they felt that the party was going to be too elitist. Yeah. That's why they started the Workers' Party. They started the Trade Unions Conference and a Workers' Party, which was very socialist, because as much as people wanted independence in Jamaica from Britain, once that independence came, you're going to have a Jamaican elite who will still be disenfranchising and discriminated against working class Jamaicans, and that's what they didn't want. They felt it really should have been much more socialist. So my family are quite socialist in that respect. Mm-hmm. So while they were quite influential in helping out with, initially, they actually broke away from the party because the party wasn't as representative of the people as they felt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Going back to your great father, I believe he made his debut for Jamaica between the ages of 29 and 30. And when I found out that lovely bit of information, I said, how is it that John Barnes' dad played for Jamaica, but Mr. John Barnes Jr. didn't play for Jamaica? And I've always been a little bit annoyed by that, because I would love to have seen you done in the black, gold, and green, and many of my generation feel the same. But a lot of people don't actually know the reason why John Barnes didn't play for Jamaica. So why did that never happen?
He played for the Army, but he also captained the Jamaican national team. Because don't forget, there was no professional football back then. So anybody who played for Jamaica had to have a job. So my father played at 29. In fact, he was Trinidadian. So he came to Jamaica when he was young. So he became a naturalized Jamaican. And because he had discipline and he was an athlete and he was a colonel in the Army, so he was very strict, he became the captain of the team. Now, when he then got sent to England as military attaché in 1976 when I was 12 years old. Initially, we were only coming to England for 4 years. In fact, the family only came for 4 years. We didn't emigrate. He was a diplomat. So it was a 4-year posting. He got recalled when I was 16 and a half, 17. And I was going to come back because I wasn't playing professional football then. I was not a club. I got offered a scholarship to Washington University, a football scholarship, because there was a football coach in Jamaica who coached there. So I fully expected to go to America, as lots of Jamaicans do, to go to university and then degree in something, get a job. And 6 months before I was going to go back with my family to Jamaica to then go to America, Watford, my first club, saw me playing just in the park for Sudbury Court in near Wembley. And they asked me if I'd like to sign for Watford. So then I signed for Watford. No talk of playing international football at all. I'm just a young 17-year-old footballer. 1 year later, England asked me to play. I don't even think in Jamaica, listen, it's a little bit different. This was like 1981. It's a bit different once the 90s came, whereby the Jamaican national team were looking at players abroad. Like you look at them now, for example, they have lots of English-born players playing for them. And even when I coached the Jamaican national team, they had lots of English-born Jamaican players because they were looking abroad for you to come back and play for Jamaica. Jamaica didn't even ask me to play for them. That was the situation where Jamaica were trying to get to the World Cup. And, it's a good team. And now you're playing, obviously, in the England Premier League. You're going to play for Jamaica. Jamaica didn't even ask me to play. And at that moment in time, I don't think, because you want to maximize your potential. So therefore, you want to play in the World Cup. So when England asked me to play, I said yes. Obviously, it's a question to be asked now because someone like Mikel Antonio, who is probably good enough to play for England, but Jamaica are also good enough to get to the World Cup. So he feels he can fulfill his ambition by playing for Jamaica. It would have been a test had Jamaica asked me to play for them back then, because of course, once England asked me to play for them, I'm not going to phone Jamaica up and say, listen, England have asked me to play. Do you want me to play for you type of thing? You have to be chosen. So I was never even asked to play for Jamaica. And to be honest with you, it would have been a difficult decision because as a footballer, you want to go to the World Cup. And at that time, Jamaica weren't the team then as they are since 98, let's say, when they went to the World Cup, because don't forget this was 1980. But of course, it'll be a much harder decision now to choose.
It's quite interesting that they pretty much didn't know who you were, being that your father played for the Black, Green and Gold. That's like, how do you miss that? He's right under your nose. How did you feel about that?
Well, I wasn't under the nose because, of course, you didn't have television, Sky Sports, and watching what's going on in Watford. Yeah. Okay, Colonel Bounce is back. His son's playing in England. But then it's not like it is now. When you talk about even footballers who never made it as professional footballers when I played, and he said, how can he not? Because, of course, if you're a good player, you become a professional footballer. So now, from your age of 6, 7, and 8, if you have any talent whatsoever, you will be spotted. You'll be in an academy. There's so many players who I played with at 17 years old, 16 years old, Derek Brown, Sylvester Williams, who I played with in Paddington at Stowe Boys Club, who never made it to professionals because they were never spotted. And you say, how can you not see good players? Because that's just the way it was. There wasn't a big scouting network going around back then. And there wasn't the information passed. So, of course, looking back, people say, how could that not have happened where Jamaica didn't ask you to play? And obviously, by the time I was playing for England, and people were like, "Oh yeah, well Jamaica should have asked him, or he should have played for Jamaica." So it was a different time.
It's quite interesting. I believe you once said, and this might be paraphrasing or it might be accuracy, apart from family, football was the most enjoyable time of my life. Does that include your managerial experience for the Reggae Boyz?
Absolutely. Of course, playing is much more pleasurable than managing. Now, obviously, if I had played for Jamaica, or if I had, because first of all, you say family, then playing, and all managers will tell you this. You speak to Pep Guardiola, you speak to Jurgen Klopp, you speak to Tapa Whitmore in Jamaica. Playing is what you love doing. Now, when you're too old and you can't play, you manage. So there's no way you can enjoy managing more than playing. There's no footballer who enjoys managing more playing than managing. But I had a fantastic time managing the Reggae Boyz. I loved it. We never lost one game, and it was only down to politics, which is why I didn't stay. I would love to have stayed and been given the opportunity to continue because, as I said, we're very successful. Because my whole philosophy on football, from a managerial point of view, is that if you get good athletes and good players, as Jamaica has, we can see worldwide how good and strong they are. You organize them, you give them discipline, you give them beliefs, they can be successful. So this whole idea that, because you're from Jamaica, as we have proven in the Athletics Forum and in other avenues, music, you are given an opportunity, you can be successful. And that is what I wanted to do with Jamaica. That's what I did. And I still have that belief and that feeling that as long as you give anybody, particularly Jamaicans an opportunity, they will be successful because, as you well know, we're very forthright people.
Absolutely. But for us to be successful, again, just maximizing our full potential, surely that has to start from the top, right? With the appropriate leadership. I've heard you in the past sing praises for Tapper. I've actually heard you said once that, you know, the type of player that Tapper was, for my generation to fully understand, or those born in the 90s, you said that Tapper had the potential to play for any team in the world.
Tapper could have played in the Premier League, absolutely. But the problem we have, you see, from an athletics point of view, Jamaicans are going to be very well respected and be given more opportunities. From a footballing perspective, because it's Jamaica, and very much like if you're from Brazil, if you're from Europe, they give you a lot of respect. Because you're from Jamaica, you don't get the same respect. So Tapper played obviously at a high level, but he could have played much higher if he was Nigerian, for example, because if you're from Nigeria or Ghana, they still feel, as much as we were hundreds of years ago, they still feel that African players have more potential than Jamaican players, which they don't. So it's also a mindset that we have to overcome in terms of, but if you look at what Jamaicans have achieved, don't forget, you know, we're Jamaicans, so therefore we have a lot of high expectations of ourselves. But think of little Jamaica with 3 million people. And then think of all the other countries in the world, and I think we're batting well above our average. So when we believe that we should actually do better than we did, Tapper had a fantastic career. Of course, to come from, for me, it was different, you see, because I came to England when I was 12. So therefore, I had 5 years in England within the system to become English. I started playing for England, and I played professional football. To come from Jamaica straight to play in England as a professional footballer at 19, 20, 21 years old, where you know the people aren't going to have the same respect for you, because you are from a small island, which isn't necessarily a footballing island, to do what he did and to have the talent that he actually did is really a testament to him.
Absolutely. Touching on respect and experience, again, you being the former or the ex-manager of the Reggae Boyz, and politics, as we touched on briefly, did you have full control over your player selection for the national side?
I did. As much as it was a battle most of the time. And that's probably why I wasn't retained at the end of my contract. When we qualified for the Gold Cup, and I wasn't allowed to take on to the Gold Cup because my contract ended a month before the Gold Cup. As much as I was told that my contract would be extended if we qualified for the Gold Cup, it wasn't, because as I said, I was having a few issues with which players I was actually choosing while I was there. And then, of course, the Gold Cup is the if you want, where everybody's going to be seen to be given a contract to go to Britain, to go anywhere else, to England. So that really is the place where everybody wants to be seen. And obviously, there were certain players who people may have wanted them to have gone, and I would probably have different ideas. So my contract was renewed. So as much as I have to say that I didn't have any interference because I fought against it, it was very difficult at that time because I was always being put under pressure to pick certain players.
Interesting. I think that'll be music to the ears of many of my supporters, because I feel that we've seen similar decision making with Tapper, who is no longer in charge of the national side. Going a little bit deeper, did you feel that at some point you had to choose homegrown players for the national call-up?
That's what I wanted to do. I was very fortunate because throughout my time, until the Gold Cup, it was during the English season. So therefore, we didn't have a lot of the English players. I think I only had maybe one. So I was picking a lot of the homegrown players. And as I said, I had full faith in the homegrown players because you give them an opportunity. That's all they need. They have the talent. They have the determination. If you guide them in the right way. And that was my whole thing. So fortunately, very rarely did I have all of the British-based players. I didn't have any. It was a homegrown players, and I had full faith in them because they were equally as good. But once again, you look at the respect that even we have for our own in terms of whether we feel that the overseas players, or they be Jamaican parents or born in Jamaica but live in England, in terms of their ability as opposed to the homegrown players. I have full faith in the homegrown players, and I'm very happy to go with all homegrown players because all they need is an opportunity, and then they would have been able to make a name for themselves, maybe come to England, and then it would have grown that way. I have to say, slightly disappointing that we seem to have gone back to getting a lot of the players over from England because, of course, I think that the homegrown players are being given the opportunity when I think they do have the talent. And if you want to grow, you have to get more homegrown players who will then make a name for themselves and then go abroad, because if you don't do that, you'll never grow the players that are in Jamaica and give them an opportunity if you just keep bringing back players who have Jamaican parents to come and play for the country. So yeah, I have full faith in it, and I'm hoping that that is a philosophy moving forward to give the homegrown players a chance, more homegrown players a chance.
I think many will agree with you, but at the very same time, some might say if the players who are based in the diaspora have the better quality, then surely they should be given the go-ahead. So I think it's about getting the balance right as best.
Yes, it is important to get the balance. But let me give an example. In South Africa, once the apartheid finished, they then said, we need black rugby players in the team. And South Africa were the best team in the world. They put 1 or 2 black rugby players in the team. They put 3 or 4 in the team. They started to lose. So they could have said, no, let's just pick the best players. If they're white, South Africa will win. But they understood that you have to give these players an opportunity to become equal. You have to give them the training, the opportunity, the expertise to then grow to be better. If you then say, well, they haven't done it, so let's go back to what was done before with the overseas players, then nothing will change. Now, what happened to South Africa? Because they had to stick with that philosophy of giving black players a chance, they lost for a while. Then 12 years later, they won the World Cup. Another 12 years later, they won the World Cup with 10 black players in the team. So it's easy to just look at it and say the overseas players are better, because once you then put them in the team, you're going to see they're better. But if you give them a chance to grow and to be improved and to be better, then you can see, the fruition of your efforts. So it's not as simple as just to say that, well, the overseas players are better because they are at this moment, but you have to give the homegrown players an opportunity and time to improve. You don't just give them 1-2 games and say they're not good enough. You give them that time of playing against better opposition week in, week out, year in, year out, you will see the benefit of it. Because ultimately, that's who they want to play for. I'm not saying that a lot of the players who come to play for Jamaica are playing for Jamaica because they can't play for England, but I'm sure if England has them to play, they would probably make a different decision. So in terms of and it's also the message you want to give to people in Jamaica. It's not just about Jamaicans winning because the parents happen for Jamaica, you're born in Jamaica. Even from my perspective, me coming back to play for Jamaica, I'd much have preferred because to give Jamaican people a real example of what you can achieve. Okay, I went to England when I was 12, but I was there just 15. So John Barnes is English-ish, if you like, and he had that experience of growing up in England. What are we saying to our young kids growing up in Jamaica? That for you to achieve, you have to go abroad. No, you don't. And the athletes have proved it. And I'll tell you why, because you may not know this, because you're very young, but a lot of the Jamaican athletes felt that they had to go to America to train in the old days, Don Quarry, a lot of the older ones, because they couldn't stay in Jamaica, because of course they had to go to America to improve. All of a sudden they stayed in Jamaica. You said both to Safa Powell, Jackson Stars, they started their own little thing, and they can do equally as well by not going to America. So that shows that we have the homegrown talent, and as long as we have not just the environment, create an environment within Jamaica to coach them, to train them, but they can also be brought up there, live there, grow there, and still be successful.
I'm leaning towards your example. I've always felt, again, I do think the balance is right. And I do think that, the best players should be called up. But at the very same times, I think it's great to have accurate representation, authentic representation as well. Because like you said, if you go and bring a player that's from the trenches and you call them up to the national side, 9 out of 10 times the hunger is there. You don't have to force it upon him because he will want to do well. And also for kids within his community, to see someone on TV that looks and sounds like them, because the accents will vary depending on the parish.
But it's also just to give them an opportunity, because in England we have opportunities. If you're going to be asked to play for Jamaica, you have a living here. You're playing for a good club here. You're earning money. We have to give the Jamaican people, the Jamaican players, not just players, but also other people, an opportunity to maximize their own potential. It's not just about. So what does success look like? Does success look like having 11 Jamaican footballers who are born in England, but their parents are from Jamaica, qualify for the World Cup? That is success for Jamaica, but what is success for the Jamaican people? If you have Jamaican players who are born there, live in Trenchtown, Tivoli Gardens, play for Cavaliers, play for whoever they want, get into the World Cup, and showing that we don't have to leave the country to be successful.
Yes. I love that. That's actually going to lead towards my further question, moving along in our conversation. What are some of the complications that comes with trying to persuade quality English-based players to play for Jamaica?
A lot of it is the fact that they are, and I'll use the African teams as an example. A lot of it is that they're used to comfort in England in terms of everything being perfect. The hotels, the training grounds, the flights, business class flights. When you get there, the coach is going to be fantastic. This is the way they are as Premier League players. When we know when they go to Jamaica or Africa, that's not going to happen. And I'll use the Republic of Ireland as an example. As much as it's a European country, when Jock Charlton was Republic of Ireland manager, Republic of Ireland, as much as a European country, they knew that if they qualified for a World Cup, they're not going to be given the best hotels. They're not going to be given the best training schedules, the best training times. So therefore, they have to just say, we don't care what you do to us. We're going to maximize our potential because we are not England, Germany, Italy. Whereas they had a problem with Roy Keane, Manchester United, who was with Ireland, and he fell out with them and they sent him home because he expected the best hotels, the best training grounds, the best facilities. And when he plays for Manchester United, that's what he gets. But he has to understand when he plays for Ireland, that's not what you're going to get. So what's going to happen is if you're a Premier League player with your clubs, you're going to have the best hotels, the best of everything. But if you go to play for Jamaica, things may not be perfect. And if it's not perfect, what is your response going to be? Your response has to be, let's get on with it. We have to put up with it. We understand we are in an elite industry whereby the Brazilians and the Germans and the French are going to get better hotels and better flights and first class flights or whatever it is, private jets, but we are not. But what we're there to do is to play football. And we have to play football with the right determination with our teammates and for the country, knowing that people may be disrespectful to us, but we don't care because we're going to go and play. If you let them get to you because you're not being treated right, if that's what you feel, your performances are going to suffer and you won't have the same commitment to the cause because you're going to complain that, well, the hotel's not right, the food's not right, the grass is too long, the pitches are terrible. So when you go and you manage, so when I went to manage Jamaica, I understood that. I knew that. So even as a manager, I played for Liverpool. I understood what elitism looks like. When I went to coach a Jamaican national team, and I knew that the pitches won't be great, and I knew that the hotels won't be great, and I made a point. I remember my first game was away at Cayman, and when we were flying to the Cayman, the coaches and the president of the association were in business, and the players were in economy. And I said, I'm going in economy with the players. And I put one of the physios in club, and I said, no, I'm not sitting there with them. I'm sitting in economy with the players because I wanted them to know that I'm one of them. And that's what has to happen. We're all together. So either we all go in Star and stay in nice hotels, or none of us do. And I wanted them to see that I'm with them in the trenches, not that John Barnes from England wants to come and be something special. So if you're in a Ibis hotel rather than Hilton, or if you're flying, leave Island anytime. What's that, Liat? Rather than somebody else, and we have to go economy as we do, then I'm happy with that because we're there to play football and to be together as a family.
It's all about unity, moving together as one. Divided you shall fall. Surely that does create a divide within the team. If you have people, like we said, from the trenches, hungry, want to crack on and just get the job done, do the nation proud. And when you have someone who's from, perhaps you say, the prestigious leagues, who are so used to, high quality and high professionalism, if they're coming into the team and they expect a higher expectations, does that not create a divide within the team?
It does. Unfortunately, I never had that because I never had the English players. I only had the Jamaican players who were happy to be going on a play. Never mind that, going to stay on 7 Mile Beach in Cayman, albeit a little guest house. So for them, it was fantastic. So I never had that problem with having the English-based players with the Jamaican-based players. But I've seen it before in Africa. We've got a lot of the African players in Nigeria and Ghana, and the way that those superstar Nigerian and Ghanaian players, then when they come together with their homegrown players, they then expect a bit more and demand a bit more. And then that does cause a rift. So I never had that. I can't speak for Tapa as to what went on with him because I was not there throughout that situation. But I can imagine that it is probably problematic, yeah.
How do we remove that problem? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, that problem seems to have existed visibly post World Cup 98, and that's almost 3 decades on, and the men's team have yet to qualify for another World Cup. So surely it's not just a case, and I've said that to people. I've heard people say maybe we should recall John Barnes, and I say, well, yes, you can recall John Barnes, undefeated, won a trophy whilst he was in charge for such a short period of time. But in terms of the long-term gratification, surely there has to be major changes, and it's not just a case of replacing head coaches as we go.
What you have to do, what I would always do, which is look at Arsenal now with Arteta, you have to look at the character of the players. It doesn't matter how good they are, look at the character. And if you're looking for the character of the players, as well as their ability, you're not going to be playing for Jamaica if you can't play. There may be some who are better, but the wrong character, so you don't want to play. But they're going to be good players. So you look at the character, and if you have the right character of player who is respectful of the team, respectful of the environment, and understands that things aren't going to be great, even though I am Lionel Messi, but I have to play for Jamaica, so I'm not going to be flying business class, and he accepts that, then that's what has to happen. So first of all, you have to look at the character of the players. Then you have to be allowed to make those decisions, because of course, that's a problem with a lot of the Jamaican coaches. What are they allowed to do?
Yes.
And that is why you look at the three greatest teams in England, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Chelsea at the moment, and look at the managers, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Thomas Tuchel. They're the ones in charge. No one tells them what to do. Abramovich doesn't tell them what to do. At Manchester City, the richest people in the world don't tell Guardiola what to do, because the players have to see that you're in charge, because you can't be undermined. So, has Jamaican coaches or African coaches been given that power? But you can see if they're given the power to make those decisions, because as I said, I've had such a great time with the Jamaican national team, because as much as all of the players are homegrown, they had the talent, they had the ability, and they saw that you are on their side, you are with them, but they also saw, as much as they would have known about the problems I may have been having in terms of selection, but they saw that I was trying to be strong enough to make the right decisions for the team. And then once they respect that and they see that you are the one in charge rather than being a puppet, then you can have success. 100% you can be successful. The problem, and I have to say that it's unfortunate for Jamaica, really, because they have had better teams than the 98 team, or equally as good teams. But don't forget, you have now the re-emergence of the Central American teams. Throughout the 90s, the political climate in Honduras, Costa Rica, El Salvador was such that football went on the back burner. Because historically, when my father played for Jamaica, why Jamaica didn't qualify in the past was, of course, you have America and Mexico, but also Honduras, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Panama. They were always better than Jamaica. So if there's only 3 teams going to qualify, Jamaica were nowhere near. In the 90s, because of the political unrest in Central America, Jamaica then finished behind Mexico and USA to qualify in 3rd place. Whereas now, the re-emergence of those countries, the political stability means it's much harder now for Jamaica to qualify, because you can see how strong Costa Rica and El Salvador and Honduras are. So it's not so much Jamaica is actually better, and they've got better players and more players. It's just harder to qualify.
Absolutely. I think the politics and the problems, the internal affairs that you touched on, I think they will always be there until there is an overhaul. So I have to ask you, can you be our pioneer for hope? And I'm asking you this question because you've got such a expandable experience. Obviously, ex-footballer, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, once director of football up in Celtic, and you also have scouting in your locker as well. So that being said, in the capacity of running for future presidency.
I'm not involved. I'm not interested in politics at all. Let me tell you something. My father was a colonel in the army. He was the second in command of the army. Yeah. And my family says, me, my sisters, my mothers, everybody who knows my father said, if there was a war, my father would be the first man to die, because he would be on the trenches, on the front line with the men. The brigadiers and the colonels are supposed to be back sending men to fight. My father would never do that. When I lived in our park camp in Jamaica, he would wake up and go running with the private soldiers, with the corporal soldiers, with the men, not the officers, not the hierarchy. And I've met so many soldiers in their 60s and 70s who living in England, who are private soldiers. So they're not officers. They're not even sergeant majors. They're the corporals and the privates. And I met so many of them who said, your father was a great man because he had time for us. He had time for us. So why I've gone around that way to tell you is that I want to be a football manager, which means that I'm in the trenches with the players.
Mm-hmm.
The hierarchy of the presidents and the other ones in club class and that flight to the Cayman, that's not me. Because of my family, the way I feel, I want to be the man on the front line with the players. So I'm not into politics at all.
That's quite devastating. I was hoping you would say the complete opposite, because I think that you'll be the ideal.
Well, maybe the manager. I don't know what, because I wouldn't mind being the manager again, I can tell you. Because I'm looking at the opportunities now, and I'm looking at the quality that they now have in abundance. Because as I said, I was very fortunate. I didn't have any of the overseas players that are homegrown players. And there were enough homegrown players there, which meant that we qualified for the Gold Cup. I didn't go to the Gold Cup, but you can see how well they're at that particular time, whereas now they have so many more players who are also playing at a high level. You know, a lot of homegrown players now playing in Europe. You know, look at Aston Villa, you look what's going on with the homegrown players, and also playing in America, also playing at home. So they're not all born in England coming back to play for Jamaica. Lots of them are now playing abroad, but they're born and brought up in Jamaica. So the pool of talent is there, a bigger pool of talent to choose from. And I really believe, as I've always believed from even before 98, that you give Jamaicans an opportunity from a sporting perspective, and they can achieve anything.
I personally feel, listening to you talk about a possible return, I personally feel as if you feel that you have unfinished business with your country of birth.
Well, we won the Caribbean Cup, and which is a fantastic trophy to win. It's a trophy. The Gold Cup was the big one, obviously. And that is one of my biggest regrets, that I wasn't given that opportunity. The last game before the Gold Cup was against Panama at home. And we beat Panama 3-2 for the first time ever since 1960, whenever it was. And the next game would have been in the Gold Cup, obviously a month later or 6 weeks later. That was the last time. And that's the last time I actually coached the Jamaica national team. And I felt, because we played Mexico before, and we'd drawn with Mexico, and I knew what Mexico had, and you see what America has. And I felt we could compete with them. So I don't know whether it's unfinished business, but there's one regret, that I wasn't able to go to a big tournament with Jamaica. But it's not about tournaments. It's about every football game you play, going out there and showing what you can do, be it a friendly against Cayman, or be it a Gold Cup match, be it the World Cup qualifier, and having that same attitude in every single game, every single training session. And that is what I love to do. So who knows what the future holds?
Would that be a definitive yes if the current president called you up and said, you know, Mr. Barnes, we're thinking of looking for a long-term head coach? Would you then say yes, or you?
I would say let's have a discussion, and then what we'd have to do, which I didn't really do first time round, because first time round I just said yes, I'm jumping at it. Mm-hmm. We have to have some ground rules as to what the requirements are, what the expectations are, and what is the profile of the manager. What power does he have? What decision can he make all the decisions, or the footballing decisions, should I say? Nothing else. I'm not interested in any other decisions, mm-hmm. in terms of who we play, where we sleep in the hotel, what we do, just footballing decisions. Then I would be willing to have a conversation, absolutely.
If you return as our head coach, or manager, I should say, sometime in the near future, what would you do different?
Well, I don't think I'd do anything different. I only had 14 games or 11 games, whatever it was, and we never lost any games. So I wouldn't do anything differently. I would make sure that everybody knows their role, in terms of what I'm here to do, what the secretary is there to do, what the president is there to do. So I won't necessarily do anything different, because from a footballing perspective, everything went well. I was just hoping for other people to do things differently.
Not surprised by that at all. Definitely not surprised by that at all. I know you've been watching us from a distance. So how do you feel about the possibility of us qualifying for the upcoming World Cup?
I've said it all along. They've been a fantastic team. They've improved most years as time has gone on. It's just mm-hmm. been more difficult, because obviously they're playing against, and as much as in Jamaica, we are big and we are special, and we believe we should be the best and we should be qualified. We are maximizing our potential. They're bigger countries than us, with a bigger footballing history, with more power than us, who we are competing against. So it's always hard. It's always hard. But as I said, with the right attitude and determination and togetherness and belief, I think that they can be successful. So I'm just hoping that people in Jamaica understand that Jamaica aren't worse than they ever have been. It's mm-hmm. just that the other teams are now back to where they were. USA and Mexico are always going to be the two big ones. And of course, Canada. But then when you're talking about the Central American teams, they are historically better than Jamaica, and they are now back playing to the level that they should be playing at, because of some of the players they have, but we can compete with them.
How comes you still have that strong affiliation with Jamaica, being that you've been away for so long, for decades?
Because apart from my wife and my children here, I don't have any other relatives here. All my relatives are in Jamaica. You see, we didn't emigrate as a family and have cousins and brothers and sisters. As much as my sisters are in America, Jamaica is where my family is, apart from my wife and kids. So, I still call it home.
That is wonderful. I think many Jamaicans, I know that is music to my ears, and I'm sure many Jamaicans will be delighted to hear. Mr. John Barnes says that Jamaica is still his home, and rightly so.
Thank you very much.
And what does the future hold for yourself, Mr. Barnes?
Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? At the moment, I am self-employed, which means I do a lot of talks, I do a lot of visits. I'm an ambassador for Liverpool, so I haven't got a 9-to-5 job. And you can never tell what the future holds. Let's hope it's something positive.
Amazing. What's your advice for little girls and little boys in Jamaica who have this dream of being the next John Barnes or the next Bibi, the next Fuller, the next Raheem Sterling, or the next Khadija Shah?
Well, it doesn't. You mentioned some names there, and 99% of people don't have those dreams. They want to be doctors and lawyers, and they want to maximize their potential. They want to be mechanics, whatever they want to be. Whatever you want to be, you can be. But what you need to do is put in the hard work, the effort, and commitment and discipline, and then you'll maximize your potential. So instead of dreaming, think about the road to get you to where you are. Don't think about the end of the journey. Think about the journey and what it takes to get there. Because too many people think about the end journey, but they don't think about how they're going to get there. And the only way they're going to get there is the first step. And the first step is, of course, the thought. But then after that is the determination and the discipline and the commitment. Because I know so many people want to be footballers, but they don't want to stop going to the nightclub. And they don't want to stop drinking. They don't want to stop smoking, but they want to be a footballer. Mm-hmm. So don't think about being a footballer. Think about what it takes to get you to be a footballer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or a dancer, or a singer, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or anything you want to do.
Definitely. Where'd you get your mental toughness from?
From my family, my mother and father. From when I was growing up, from I was 6-7 years old. I'll give an example. My father said, if you're going to do something, do it with discipline and do it with commitment. Mm-hmm. So when I was 7 years old, I used to swim for the Marlins in Jamaica. Yeah, the Marlins and the Flying Fish and the YMCA, but I swam for the Marlins swimming team. My sister swam for Jamaica, and we used to have to go training in the national pool every day. We lived in our park camp, could walk to the stadium pool. And I'm walking to the stadium pool every day to go to training. I used to stop off and play football sometimes and not go to training. So when I was 10 years old, my father said, if you're not going to go to training every day, give up swimming. That's why I gave up swimming, because my father said, if you're going to do anything, you have to do it with commitment and determination and discipline. And that's the best advice you can give anyone.
Amazing. I hope you guys are listening carefully and taking your notes from the legend himself. It's finally happened. I did say to you guys that I'm trying my best to get someone special on my platform. And thankfully it's happened before the end of the year. Mr. John Barnes, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I know time is running out, but I cannot thank you enough for blessing me with a moment of your time.
Crystal, thank you very much. And anytime you want later on, you can get me on again.
Thank you. Thank you. My Tallawahs, thank you for watching. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.